I'm KOAT Action 7 News reporter Mike Springer. We just finished talking to the DA about that brutal beating over the weekend where 3 teenagers are accused of beating 2 homeless men to death in a vacant lot in northwest Albuquerque.
What happened to Susan Walsh?
The urgent search currently underway for 2 convicted killers. The drama began this weekend when the Khans apparently used power tools to escape New York's Clinton Correctional Facility.
A journalist with dangerous secrets vanished without a trace. Her disappearance remains unsolved. Don't miss this chilling mystery. Click to uncover the truth. Case number 1. The Millbrook Twins. On March 18, 1990, a tragic mystery unfolded in Augusta, Georgia. Danette and Jeanette Millbrook, 15-year-old twins, vanished without a trace, sparking a case that still haunts the community. That morning, the Millbrook family attended church and stopped for chicken on their way home. Jeanette told her mother, Mary, that they had been followed by a white van. Mary checked the street but saw nothing. Afterward, the twins went out to visit family and stopped by a gas station. That was the last time anyone saw them. As night fell, Mary grew worried. She and her 12-year-old daughter, Shanta, began searching the streets. But after hours of finding nothing, they called the police. The response was shocking. They had to wait 24 hours to file a missing persons report. When they finally called again, a detective coldly suggested the girls had run away. Despite the family's relentless efforts, the authorities barely took action. The case was treated as if the twins had just left home, not as a crime. The fact that the girls were from a low-income family and African American likely played a role in the lack of attention. In 1993, an anonymous call claimed the girls were found, but the tip was never followed up, and the case was closed. For 10 years, the search continued, but there were no answers. In 2013, the case was reopened when a new sheriff was elected, but by then, 23 years had passed. The mystery remained unsolved, and the Millbrook twins vanished without a trace. Was it the white van they saw that day, or was someone else involved? Only the person who took them knows the truth. The disappearance of Danette and Jeanette Millbrook is a haunting reminder of the cases that remain unsolved, leaving families desperate for closure. Case number 2, Catherine Eglin. In 1993, Portland, Oregon was a quiet city with a thriving community. But a dark mystery soon would change the course of the town's history. Catherine Eglin, a 22-year-old saleswoman, vanished under strange circumstances, and to this day, no one knows exactly what happened to her. On August 2, 1993, Catherine left her office for a business meeting. She stopped for errands along the way, including a bank deposit, gas, and lunch. Witnesses confirmed she was seen around 2:00 p.m. at the Port of Portland building, where she made some phone calls. She appeared anxious and nervous, which raised questions about what was really going on. The man she was supposed to meet later watched her leave with a man wearing a blue blazer. Instead of coming to him, Catherine and the man walked out of the building, and she was never seen again. She missed a meeting with her advisor later that day, and by the evening, her family grew concerned. Catherine's car was found at an industrial complex near the airport, about 9 miles away. The windows were down, and the car was unlocked with the keys still in the ignition. Inside, her purse and belongings were untouched. But there was one thing missing: her passport, which she had recently picked up. While some believed she may have run away, others pointed to darker possibilities. Detective Terry Wagner considered that Catherine may have left on her own due to family troubles. Her sister was under investigation for tax fraud, and some thought Catherine might have chosen to escape rather than face the truth. In 2004, Brooke Wilberger disappeared and was later murdered, and a suspect named Joel Courtney had been in the Portland area around the time of Catherine's disappearance. Though he was looked at, no solid evidence connected him to Catherine's case. Catherine's fate remains a mystery, and while some think she may have left her life behind, others wonder if something far darker happened to her that day. The search for Catherine Eglin continues, with no clear answers and a haunting question. What really happened to her? Case number 3. June Carpenter. On November 8, 1986, June Carpenter Gilkerson, a 24-year-old woman from Midland, Texas, mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind a trail of questions and a haunting story. She had been working as a volunteer at a local halfway house, gaining experience to become a probation officer. But she never made it to work that day. Before she vanished, June had been hiding a secret. For the past 6 months, she had been involved in a relationship with David Alderink, an ex-convict on probation for burglary. David had been part of the halfway house where June worked, but what seemed like a troubled relationship soon became the center of the mystery. 2 days after June's disappearance, her car was found at a Best Western motel, with all her personal belongings inside: her purse, keys, and clothes, but no sign of June. At first, suspicion fell on her husband, but he had an alibi and was deeply distressed by her disappearance. Further investigation revealed that June's affair with David was much darker than anyone had known. David had been talking to a man named Kenneth Parker, who worked as a janitor at the local library. Parker had a disturbing plan to sell American women to the Mexican cartels for $10,000 each. June had mentioned to David that she wanted to divorce her husband and move in with him. But David didn't share the same feelings, and they planned to hand June over to Parker. On the morning of her disappearance, June arrived at the pre-arranged meeting point. Parker, however, ambushed her, binding her with duct tape, throwing her into a sleeping bag, and taking her away. David drove her car to the motel and left it there while Parker took June's life. He later claimed he shot her and burned her body in a pile of tires at a relative's house. Despite Parker's claims of innocence, police found his gun with spent casings, which sealed his fate. David Alderink cooperated with the authorities and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Kenneth Parker received 2 life sentences and will be eligible for parole in 2048 when he turns 100 years old. The case of June Carpenter Gilkerson is a tragic reminder of how betrayal, crime, and darkness can end in devastating loss. Her body was never found, and the mystery of her disappearance remains a chilling chapter in Midland's history. Case number 4. Kyle Clinch. On a cold night in January 1976, Kyle Clinch Scales, a 22-year-old college student from LaGrange, Georgia, set out on a journey that would change his family's life forever. Kyle was heading back to Auburn University from his part-time job at a bar, but he never made it. That night, Kyle vanished without a trace, sparking a search that would last for decades. His parents, Luis and John, never gave up hope, keeping a spare seat at the dinner table for him and a key hidden in case he ever returned. Over the years, the family put up countless flyers and posters, hoping for answers. In December 2021, after nearly 46 years, a motorist spotted something unusual. A rusted 1974 Ford Pinto was partially submerged in a creek near Ceda, Alabama. Inside, they found Kyle's ID and skeletal remains, solving the mystery of his disappearance. Sadly, the closure came too late for his parents, who had passed away in 2021 and 2007, respectively. The mystery that had tormented them for decades was finally solved, but the answers came too late for them to find peace. Case number 5. Susan Walsh. On July 16, 1996, Susan Walsh, a 36-year-old journalist and part-time exotic dancer, stepped out of her home in Nutley, New Jersey, to make a phone call and was never seen again. Her disappearance quickly became a mystery that unraveled into a complex web of theories and dead ends. Susan had a history of writing about dark subjects, including the Russian mafia's involvement in the adult entertainment industry. She had also written about underground vampire cultures, diving into the seedy corners of society. Her bold, dangerous work had made her both respected and a target. Susan's estranged husband was questioned, but he wasn't considered a suspect, even though he refused forensic testing in their home. 2 days before her disappearance, Susan had mentioned a stalker, a former boyfriend. Could he have been involved? Or did her journalistic work make her a target of dangerous people? Despite widespread media coverage and extensive searches, no trace of Susan has ever been found. Theories continue to swirl around her disappearance, leaving behind more questions than answers. What truly happened to Susan Walsh remains one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries. The mystery of Susan Walsh still haunts us, but it's just the beginning. In our next video, we dive into the most baffling crime scenes that left investigators stunned. You won't want to miss it. Subscribe now for more gripping stories you can't afford to miss.